Okay, we're back. We have an equation that has an equal sign. But right now, if we look at it, we don't know if it's quadratic. We do not see the x squared. So you don't know if it's quadratic. So the problem is, if it's not quadratic, you are not allowed to start moving the terms to the left side. So there's no reason that you should be moving the 14 yet. What you have to do is deal with this left side, and you have to use your distributive property for multiplication. Because you have to get rid of the parentheses and see what you have on the left side to decide whether this is a quadratic equation. So we know when we have a term in front of parentheses, we distribute. So x times 3x is 3x squared. X times negative 1 is negative 1x. And it equals 14. Now clearly it's quadratic. We see our x squared. So now we're free to move the 14 over by doing the opposite operation, which is subtracting. On the left side, we have three terms. None of these terms are alike, so we must write them in the correct descending order. So we have 3x squared minus 1x, which we could just write minus x, minus 14 equals 0. Now that our equation is set equal to 0, it's quadratic. Now we want to factor. First rule of factoring is GCF. Well, there is no GCF. Obviously, because there's three terms, this cannot be difference of perfect squares or grouping. This is the trinomial rule. But again, everybody look closely. In my world, what Ms. Black calls a difficult trinomial, because it has this coefficient of 3. So you have two options. You either do trial and error, backwards FOIL, or you do grouping. I'm a trial and error kind of girl. So I'm going to write above here FOIL. I'm going to put my two sets of parentheses, because I know a trinomial always factors into two binomials. I always start with the first term. In algebra, what can multiply to 3x squared? Well, that's easy. It can only be 3x times 1x. The last term, what can multiply to 14? Well, it could be 1 and 14 or 2 and 7. What we have to do is we have to get the outers and inners to make this 1x. And we want to do it by subtracting. So we're going to play the game. It doesn't matter what you try first. If I put 1 here and 14 here, my outers would be 3 times 14, which is 42. My inners would be 1. 42x and 1x is not going to subtract to 1x. I'll switch them. That's why it's called trial and error. Put the 14 here and the 1 here. My outers would be 3x. My inners would be 14x. 3x and 14x will not subtract to make that 1x. That's out. So now I got to try my 2 and 7. 2, 7. My outers would be 21x. My inners would be 2x. 21x minus 2x is not what's in the middle. So obviously I got to switch those. All right, let's hope we got it. Our outers are 6x. Our inners are 7x. Hey, that works. 6x minus 7x would be negative 1x. We're subtracting. The signs have to be different. The subtraction has to go to larger. 7 was larger than 6. Now it's factored. Now we have two linear equations. So we set both equal to 0. We solve. Opposite of subtract 7 is add 7. We divide. Opposite of multiply 3 is divide by 3. 7 does not divide by 3 evenly. So we will leave an improper fraction, 7/3. Do not make a mixed number. Mixed numbers are unacceptable in higher math. Leave it an improper fraction. Now, if you converted this with a calculator into a decimal, it would be a repeating decimal. Okay? 3 goes into 7 twice. Okay, so I'll show you over here. 3 goes into 7 twice. That'd be 6 with 1 left over. 3 goes into 10 3 times. That'd be 9 with 1 left over. So if you want to write it as a repeating decimal, you can. Make sure you put the bar to show the repeating digit of 3. All right? If you're not a fan of factoring a difficult trinomial, doing trial and error, I will show you using grouping. So again, one more time. If we're going to do grouping, we would take this coefficient and multiply by this constant. 3 times 14 is 42. We would list all the factors of 42. 1 in 42, 2 in 21, 3 in 14. 4 does not go into that. 5 does not. 6 and 7. All right? We're going to leave our term 3x squared. We're going to leave our term negative 14. We're going to replace which of these factors subtract to give us a negative 1x. It'd be that, 6 and 7. So if I had a positive 6x and a negative 7x, I'd get a negative 1x. Now I could do grouping. Noah's Ark, 2 by 2. What's in common here? A 3x. I'll pull out my GCF. That'll leave me x plus 2. What's in common here? I would divide by negative 7. That would leave me x plus 2. Y'all agree? I would then write my parentheses x plus 2. I would write my other parentheses 3x minus 7. If you look, doesn't matter if you do trial and error or you do grouping method, we get the same factored result. Now, we just solved this. We know this is x to 7/3. We have to solve here. X plus 2 equals 0. So if we subtract 2, we get x equals negative 2. So there are our two solutions. All you need to do is practice factoring your difficult trinomials. See you in the next module.